They're dead, Dave.
What, Captain Hollister?
Everybody's dead, Dave.
What, Todd Hunter? What, Selby? Not Jen.
He's dead, Dave. Everybody is dead. Everybody is dead, Dave.
Hello, welcome to Everybody is Dead Dave, the Red Dwarf review podcast where we are working our way through every single episode of Red Dwarf from two perspectives. One, mine, which is that of someone who's been watching since the 90s, I'm Phil. And two, Adam.
That's me. I'm perspective number two. I am a relatively new fan of Red Dwarf. Before this podcast started, I had not seen a single episode of this series, something that I'm rectifying now. Don't worry, I'm getting there. We're three series in, and generally, I'm having a really good time. And we're back with another review for you.
We are indeed. But before we get to that, I should just flag up, this will have been around for weeks by the time this episode goes out, because we pre-record ages in advance. But we now have our own Twitter accounts, especially for the pod. So if you want to find us on Twitter, go to @AllDeadDavePod. You'll notice something there. Our title of our podcast is Everybody's Dead Dave, but annoyingly, Twitter has a 15-character limit on Twitter handles.
I didn't know that was a thing.
They
it makes
do.
sense, I suppose.
So
yeah.
Therefore, I had to sort of find something that would fit. So it's All Dead Dave Pod rather than Everybody Dead Dave Pod. But we will live with that.
Good
Go check us out on
alternative.
Twitter.
Good alternative.
Yeah. Today we're talking about the episode Timeslides, the 5th episode of Series 3, in which Richton has been doing a bit of photography and developing in a dark room some photos which miraculously start coming to life. The photos are moving, and then they discover that they're not just moving, they can jump into them and time travel with them. And hilarity ensues as people try and rewrite their pasts and create better lives for themselves. What was your general thoughts of this episode?
Well, Timeslides implied that we were going to get some, to coin a Doctor Who phrase, timey-wimey stuff. And I'll tell you what my thoughts were as soon as the title sequence finished and it said with Adolf Hitler as himself.
Tonight's special guest star, Adolf Hitler as himself.
I was like, okay, it's going to be one of those Red Dwarf episodes
that
where
did take
things
me
get
back
a little
bit.
crazy.
I was like, oh, okay, where are they going with this?
It's quite the bold thing to put on your screen to start an episode with. And I must admit, I mean, just to say now, I thought with that, Adolf Hitler sounds awful. I thought Adolf Hitler would have been featured more prominently. But just to get to that point now, he literally appears in it for about 10 seconds is one of the photos that you mentioned in that. So if you're watching this as well and you're thinking, oh, wow, they're going to have a whole episode with Adolf Hitler. No, they don't. It's a glorified. It reminds me of Let's Kill Hitler in Doctor Who, where he was touted to be the central character and he appears for about 10 seconds and gets thrown in a cupboard. But hey, that's probably all Hitler deserves, in all honesty. So fair play.
And in both Doctor Who and Red Dwarf, Hitler gets punched.
He does, again, just as he deserves. I mean, I was, after being surprised by that, I was quite surprised at first we're with Lister and Kat, and Kat's doing some sort of like board game golf, it seemed, which just seems like a
It made me think of like Subbuteo, but for golf.
What's Subbuteo?
Do you know? Oh, you've never heard of Subbuteo? Okay, Subbuteo is a football game, and it's played with these little tiny miniature figures that are on slightly like a curved base. So you have a miniature ball, you have a miniature pitch, you have goals, you have all your team set up, and you literally flick the people to kick the ball.
Oh, okay. So it's not like table football where you've got
no.
No,
You flick people, you flick your characters to move them around, and you flick them to hit the ball, and you try and play a game of football.
I can't say I've ever... Is that still a thing? Or is that something that's been...
I think it is, but I do think it had its sort of heyday in probably between the 70s and the 90s. I think it came around in about the 70s, and it was still big. It was quite big in the 80s, I think. And then by the time I sort of encountered it in the 90s, it was waning a bit, I think. Although you could still go by like like toy shops would have whole racks with you could buy every
wow.
single Premier League team and in their own colours and their own kits and things.
wow.
Yeah, it's probably sold now, but it's probably more of a niche thing. It's probably not as big anymore.
Well,
But
there you go. There's your pop culture reference. Right off the
there
bat,
always has to be something in
there's
this,
always
isn't there?
something.
There was Shake and Vac that I had to explain to you the one week, wasn't there?
Yeah, and I think there's another reference a bit later down the line which we'll come to, but that opening scene, I was surprised at how, for Lister, it was quite a deep moment for him to kick off with, basically saying that he's not happy with his life at the minute, but it's not, for the most part, there's a few giggles from the audience, but I'd argue it's not really played for laughs.
Not from Dave's point of view. No, it's kind of the laughs come from Kat's reaction to it, I suppose, and how he sort of brushes it off. And but no, yeah, Dave he's in a bit of a slump. It's a bit sad to see him like that. Poor Dave.
Yeah, because we're not used to. Usually, if he has those moments, it's like near the end of an episode when something's happened. But to kick it off when he's normally like the big bundle of energy, and he's just really forlorn in this one. Yeah, it was a bit surprising. I admire it though. Always good to change it up, but I was just surprised by it. I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting this.
And it makes sense, he's been these few people on this huge ship all alone, rest of humanity who knows if they even exist anymore, and he's all alone, and he's going to get a bit, as he says, he keeps devising more and more. They keep on just devising more and more ingenious ways of wasting time, because what are they doing? What are they doing with their lives? Just sitting around, messing around, and
which again is quite when you think about it, it's like, wow, that is really all they're doing. And then it's like, God, for him, as you say, for him, not really for Rimmer because he's a hologram and Cat's cat, let's put it that way, and Crichton's like an android. Whereas for him, as a human, you'd think, I think we'd all be a bit like that after a while. It's that.
Yeah, it's kind of the first time they've really addressed the situation of being as they are on the ship from that point of view, from the kind of like the loneliness and the boredom that they would eventually inevitably get.
It's going back to the original premise or like the early episodes, because I guess I must admit there are probably some points in this series, like I think like we chatted with Billy last week, the original premise of it being, of series 1 and 2, like being we're lost in space sort of thing, we're the only ones here, we've not got a destination. Series 3 doesn't sort of focus on that as much, or at least up till this point. As we said, it's more about the individual situations, like the extreme things or whatever. And yeah, just that whole scene for me just really harked back to what the situation is. It's reminding us that they are just 4 guys on a ship that's just in space, not going to get back to Earth in, X amount. Do you know what I mean? It was a nice reminder of like, oh yeah, this is actually the environment we're in here, I guess.
Yeah. But then, from a very depressed Dave, we get a very happy Crichton, who is dancing around his dark room, sort of being very enthusiastically developing these photos.
To the most 80s song ever as well.
Yeah,
he's jamming out
slightly overplayed, slightly exaggerated in his reaction to what happens. Because he develops these photos and they start moving, and he's just like his double takes and everything. They are very over the top and exaggerated. Yet he pops his eyes out, and it's all, but it kind of works.
Yeah, I feel for Crichton it works, I think, and it pairs well with his. I guess his personality, the fact he's an android and stuff. Again, Lightning at the start, I was surprised at him rocking out to this really 80... Because again, it just sort of shoots out of nowhere. And I think by this point we've established that Red Dwarf can get away with it to some degree, because it's a comedy for one thing. And but I must admit, when the things with the photographs started happening, like, since this is my first time, I don't know if you remembered instantly, but I was like, what is going on? Like, what is happening here?
Did you do a Crichton double take?
Well, sort of. I think it was more like confusion. I was like, wait, are these... I think I couldn't see if they were photos at first. I was like, are they like video? Because, it's like the future. I was like, are they video slides or
are they meant
something
to do
like that? Yeah, and it was only when he then explained to the others later what had happened I was like, oh, right, okay. That's the
talking of sort of sitcom-y hand waving of things happening, and it's fine, we don't need to explain it properly. It's a sitcom, it doesn't matter, it can be a silly explanation. Just like mutated developing fluid. Somehow, just having 3 million years to mutate causes it to time travel.
Yeah.
Not quite sure how that works, but hey, it's a sitcom. We can let it go.
I can let that slide. What I can't slide is we're 3 million years in the future and we're still using photo negatives in film. I mean, it's obviously it's like we said. I mean, you know, CRT TVs, the full work, and even Crichton, when he stops playing the music, pops a cassette out. So it's like, I guess you have to forgive it. Really, it's like they had a budget. You can't make everything look and I guess again it's tongue in cheek, isn't it? It's like, oh, it's the future, but we still use cassettes and we still have.
And it wasn't even a triangle-shaped cassette. I mean,
I know, where was the
slacking?
I missed the triangle cassette. They've just given up. They're like, we'll just give him a copy of Now That's What I Call Music 6, and no one will know. It could have been anything. I was tempted to pause the frame to see if I could read, because I think it was white text on a black tape, but I did. I probably wouldn't have been able to read it, but I'm curious as to what that tape actually said.
Yeah. On the photos thing, though, I can kind of let it slide because maybe it was a niche hobby. You know, we have digital photography now, but there are people that still like doing, you know, your traditional film photography. You know, you keep it as a niche hobby. And, you know, we've got vinyls now coming back in. That's true. You know, an archaic technology that, you know, doesn't have the best sound quality, but some people like it. Some people like that cackly noise. Maybe it's the same with cassettes. Maybe there was a retro boom in cassettes in whatever year this was.
The appeal of the past.
I have some other issues with the year and what the stuff looks like, but I'll come to that a bit later on because it affects a different bit. But they find out these photos, you can, as well as looking at moving images of the past, you can actually step into them. I think Lister falls into it, the first one, by accident, doesn't he?
He does, and I must admit, the effect when it was like face on of him falling, it was really well done, especially for the late 80s. It was very seamless, you know. I thought, oh, we're going to get some awkward like blue screen effect. But anytime, because they did have some side shots where you don't really see, you know, you see him basically walk off a stage in a studio. But the ones where it was face on every time they came in and out, I thought as an effect, they were really well done. They looked convincing.
Yeah, I'd say so. And we get a few of them. We get, like, they go into a skiing thing at one point, don't they? They go into, and then we get the Hitler one, which is Hitler doing a speech, and Lister goes into it and ends up in a fist fight. It's kind of off screen. We don't see it happening, but we see him sort of standing next to Hitler, and then it cuts back to the other rest of them in the dark room, and we hear a sort of scuffle and a punch up, and then Lister comes back with a briefcase. I quite like what they did with the briefcase. It was kind of sending up, you know, just making Hitler look ridiculous by the stuff he had in his briefcase. You know, he had a banana and crisp sandwich. He had he had some kinky handcuffs, you know, making him sort of taking the mick out of him by sort of demeaning him a bit there. I quite like that. Because it's Hitler. You can demean Hitler all you want. That's fine. I wouldn't say that about many people, but Hitler's okay. Again,
he's earned it. He's earned it fully percent. But no, it was a neat effect. Again, for the time, like inserting Dave into there was fairly convincing. And as like we were saying, they sort of realised from that they've got developer fluid that essentially is a time machine, and and then obviously, like most people do, they discuss the whole what can we do. And I must admit, one of the funniest lines, and it might be a contender, I'll decide by the end if it is my favourite funniest line, is when Crichton makes the JFK joke. Because again, I wasn't expecting it, especially from Crichton. And he acknowledges that, saying, oh, but I must have dodged my bad taste or good taste chip. Because what is it he says?
We could go to Dallas in November 1963, stand on the grassy knoll and shout, duck! I'm sorry, I must have bypassed my good taste chip.
He just says it so, like, innocently and so, like, happily. It just, I don't know, it just really tickled me.
I'm not sure.
Might be a contender.
All I will say here is, and I'm not sure it's the right word exactly, but foreshadowing. It's not quite foreshadowing because I don't think they had anything planned at this point, but just at some point in the future of our watch through, this topic will come back.
Oh, right, okay.
Mysterious,
it's one of those Red Dwarf foreshadowings, eh?
Kind of, half. I mean, it's more of a just like referencing the same event, but
Yeah.
there will be more Dallas 1963 stuff in a future episode.
Oh, there you go. That's exciting. I also, just to backtrack slightly, I've just remembered another funny line I had was when I think we see... Is it when we... I think when we first see the World War II clip, and I think it's Rimmer who says, "Oh, look, it's the runners-up of World War II." And I don't know why. Again, that just really tickled me a little bit.
Although Rimmer, going back to the Hitler stuff, like, slightly disturbing that Rimmer is a subscriber to Fascist Dictator Monthly.
That was
as you do.
As you do. You know, I know they sort of play it off as just a tongue-in-cheek joke, I guess. But yeah, I guess it does make your ears prick up a bit and go, wait, what? Like,
I mean, Rimmer's always a little bit of a git, but here, I mean, are we to imply that he admires these fascist dictators? I don't know.
Oh, I'd like to hope not. Well, he's not. He wasn't as bad this time as he was last week. I mean, we discussed that at length, but Rimmer was not a nice character, full stop, last week with the whole body swapping. I mean, a lot of you might have heard it. If you haven't, go and listen to it. But yeah, I think, like we said, Rimmer is sort of that bit of a git in general, but to the degree where you can still sort of laugh with him and sympathise with him. Whereas I could again in this episode, but yeah, back in that last one, for me, that was a staunch no-go. That was. So yeah, I'm glad that wasn't a persistent thing at the moment anyway. I'm glad he was just sort of back to the general level of Rimmer gitness, if you like.
And because Dave is in this funk, he's not a happy boy at the moment. He's decides that he's going to use this to change his past. He's going to find a photograph of his past. He's going to go back and convince himself not to join the Space Corps. And actually, there was something set up earlier where Rimmer talks about his friend from school having invented this stress. What was it called? Tension sheet, which is basically it's bubble wrap, but painted red and with tension sheet written on it. And Rimmer's school colleague, fellow pupil at school, had become a multi-millionaire off this idea. And so Lister has the idea to go back in time and tell a younger version of himself to invent this and instead become a multi-millionaire. So they go back to a place to when he was in a band playing in a pub. They have a photo of him playing in a pub as a young guy. To a pub and just general surroundings, and this is what I was going to come back to look very 1970s.
Oh God, yeah.
like
the whole
we're meant to be in the
aesthetic.
Future, and everything looks like it's from the 1970s, which I'm guessing they were going, okay, that's when Craig Charles would have been that age. But why does Earth in the future, when they've got space mining cores, still look like the 1970s?
Well, you know, they say everything comes back around.
I suppose it might be one of those another retro things, like the photographs or, having cassettes, maybe.
Yeah. And I mean, what does he say about his fashion? He called it like sham glam. And obviously in the 70s you had glam rock and stuff. And yeah, so I think you're right. I think obviously they knew with budgets maybe. They were like, realistically, we can't do a futuristic yet past, maybe to the full extent they wanted. So it's like, as you say, maybe it was that thing of, okay, we'll go something that looks like the 1970s. We won't make too big of a fuss on it, but we'll get Lister to say the odd thing that sounds 70s but is slightly different, like sham glam and all that sort of stuff. And it was cool to see a young Lister in about, was it Smeg and the Heads? Because of course
Smeg and the Heads, yeah.
Smeg and the Heads with which was again very early 70s, like the hippie flower power meditation sort of thing. Which I think, like, as you say, that's basically what they're parodying, isn't it? It's that very 70s vibe of make love, not war sort of vibe, and everyone's chilled out and probably smoking a bit too much, which they don't delve into. But I don't know if you noticed this. When we first hear young Lister talk, when he's addressing the crowd, I couldn't really hear the scouse. And I wrote in my notes, I was like, is it Scouse? But then as soon as he starts talking to older Lister and the others, you hear the Scouse in it. But yeah, just he's addressing the crowd. I don't know. I just either I missed it or it
I
had
didn't
been like
notice
toned
that.
down.
No,
Okay.
maybe. I mean, singers have stage voices.
Stage
so
voices. Yeah, maybe. But yeah,
maybe it's that. Possibly. I did. It was quite amusing seeing Lister talk to his younger self and, tell him how crap his music is.
yeah. I just love how I wrote in my notes that he just accepts them being there. There's not the whole, oh my god, you're an older version of me. He's just like, yeah, I'm okay. Rimmer's like, Lister's like, this is Rimmer, Crichton, and Kat, and I'm an older version of you. And young Lister's like, all right, okay. But realistically, we say it on this show sometimes, but I think that is what young Dave Lister would do. I don't think he'd be too fussed at meeting his
wouldn't.
future self.
Yeah, he probably just shrug
he
it off.
just seems pretty
yeah.
relaxed about the whole thing. And let's face it, they probably really did it because of, we've only got a 20-minute episode here. We got to keep.
We
the
don't
plot
have
moving.
time to start
We don't
explaining
have
the
time.
time-space continuum.
Let's just crack on. Yeah, they don't really do that, do they? Which is because way back in series 1 with Future Echoes, I think we commented how they took the time to sort of explain the concept of what a future echo was. Whereas with something, I know it's time travel, and most people sort of, I guess, if you like sci-fi, you have a rough understanding of like the rules, even though they change in every thing it's in. But people, I guess, have a more general understanding. So maybe they thought, oh, we don't need to do the whole, oh my god, you're an old. Do you know what I mean? Maybe they felt they didn't need to do that, but. Yeah, I don't know. I still think it was partly the time limit, and they wanted to keep on rolling.
Yeah, I know you said about the accent initially. I don't know if that was a deliberate choice or not, but I think other than that, I didn't notice it myself. But other than that,
was fair.
The guy that played young Lister, I think his name is Simon Gaffney. I looked it up. He did a good job. He was. I thought he felt like he could be a younger Craig Charles.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He got the vibe down perfectly. That sort of more when he was like when they're arguing and that they're like nose to nose. It's like you can tell this is the same person at just two different stages in his life.
What did you think of the argument that they were having? And the kind of like it was kind of like a battle of idealism versus practicality, because you got older Lister trying to convince him to be go for the money, and he's all like, I don't want money. You're a crypto-fascist is the word he kept on using.
Which echoes the whole like thing. I mean, crypto's becoming a big thing these days, all that sort, and some people are shy to it, I suppose. But yeah, I thought it was in a way a nice parallel of people say, how people say, oh, if I could meet my younger self and tell him X, Y, Z, then I'd do it. It was basically that lived out. I think realistically, as adults, I think we've all got things that we think, oh, if we could go back and see our younger selves, we would tell them this, that, and the other. Whether, like you say, whether it's in this case about chasing money or making a different decision about something, if we have any regrets. So I just felt it was basically, they didn't dwell on it too much. You had that little bit of nose to nose, and then it was all diffused and over. But yeah, I like that parallel because Lister is often perceived to be, the bumbling guy of the leads. He sort of bumbles around. He hasn't really got an aim. He just does what he wants. And it's touched upon how he likes money, but this is probably one of the most like serious episodes we've seen him. An episode where we've seen him be like the most serious.
Yeah.
Like you got the bit at the beginning where he's serious about being down about life. And then when he's talking to his younger self, he's not trying to get the laugh. He's like, no, you need to do this.
Yeah,
so my life
because
now
he is
will not
usually
be
the
awful.
young, because he's not that old. He's not like he's
old.
No,
not at all.
Craig Charles. When was this? 1989 was this one, or was this 1990?
Yeah, he must have been.
He was in his mid-20s.
Yeah,
it's not like
not
he
that
was old. and this younger version of him is meant to be like maybe 17 or something.
Yeah, so
18,
not that
like
old at all.
Yeah, there's not even that much of a difference between them.
No, yeah, but yeah, I just like that. Did you enjoy the confrontation, or?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I don't know, like, if it was trying to say anything or not. It seemed like they were painting him as the younger him as a very sort of stereotypical caricature of like the idealist, the young idealist, who wants to fight against the sort of the machine and things.
It's a piece of crypto-fascist bourgeois crap.
It'll make you a multi-millionaire.
But I'm not into dosh. I hate money. I loathe possessions. It's just so crypto-fascist.
You stop saying everything's crypto-fascist. Make me sound like I was a complete git.
So I don't know if that was a bit too much of a caricature, but it's a comedy. You kind of expect caricatures in comedy a little bit.
Yeah, here and there.
It was alright.
Here and there.
Yeah, it was quite good. But so evidently he manages to convince him, because they come back and then Lister, Cat, and Crichton all disappear.
They do.
He succeeds because of course, if Dave never joined the crew, he never would have brought Frankenstein the cat on, so the whole cat race would have never been created, and as a team they never would have found Crichton. So it's just left with Rimmer by himself. I'm not sure why Rimmer's still there, considering he was only turned on as a hologram to keep Dave company.
But who was it who turned him on as a hologram though? Was that Dave or was that Holly?
No, that was Holly.
But, okay.
So I suppose Holly could have still done it anyway. But the reason Holly did it was because to keep Dave company. I'm not sure why Holly had been like having 3 million years by himself anyway at that point. Why would they suddenly turn on? Yeah.
I think that they just had to write that one off. It's like, well, Rimmer's just got to stick around for some reason. But
there's a lot of logical holes in this episode.
I mean, when you're trying to tell a time travel story in like 23 minutes, I mean, you're gonna have to cut corners somewhere. It's not gonna be an easy ride. But and Rimmer's not happy about this, and he's like, right, I'm gonna solve it. We get a bit of Red Dwarf on location. Always love a bit of Red Dwarf on location. From the ship.
We also get a cameo by one Ruby Wax. Do you know who Ruby Wax is?
The name rings the faintest bell, but I couldn't.
She's like a TV personality who was around sort of at the time quite prominently. She's less so now.
Does she play the newsreader?
And welcome to the lifestyles of the disgustingly rich and famous. Tonight we'll be looking at the world's youngest billionaire, Mr. Dave Tension Sheet Lister.
Yeah, she's the newsreader.
Yeah.
So she's she's an actress apparently, an actress, comedian, writer, mental health campaigner, and lecturer, according to Wikipedia.
Very good.
She's got an OBE as well.
Oh, wonderful.
Nice seeing a cameo from her anyway, which interestingly I found out on the IMDb trivia section for this episode. That part was originally going to go to Graham Chapman, the Monty Python guy.
Oh, no way.
But unfortunately, he passed away just before they were going to film. So
I was going to say, he did pass around that sort of time. Yeah, that's such a shame.
So that would have been his role had he not passed away.
Yeah. No, that is a shame. One thing I just wanted to raise is when Rimmer arrives, I'm assuming he's done it via... he has done it via the photo, but what photo did he... Oh, no, is it... Or did he just go through the TV screen?
But the TV... what TV... Where they weren't filming in the dining room, so how did he appear in there? There was no camera, no filming. I had that note as well. I was like, how is he... Again, it's another one of those logical things you just kind of have to let go, but
you just got
that one probably bugged me the most, because I was like, there's no photo there for him to have gotten to that location from.
He literally does just appear in Lister's new life as a billionaire. He's got 58 houses or whatever, and he's got
a giant naked statue of himself peeing.
which looked all right, but I was sort of like, I can tell it's sort of been added in, but of course they weren't going to build. I'm not saying they should have built it for real, but
I think for the time it looked quite good actually. I thought it was equivalent
for 1989. Yeah,
I'm not sure if it was CGI or if it was probably not CGI. Was it? It was probably more sort of composite thing, but it looked quite good. I mean, I would say it was just as good as stuff we were getting like 5 years later in the mid 90s. So yeah,
absolutely, yeah. No, it wasn't terrible by any means. And then obviously the dining room, and he's got this this really attractive girlfriend that he has, or wife, or I can't remember if did he say he was married or were they just together?
He calls her his bird, So
Yeah,
that could, who knows?
That could be that could be anything, I guess.
Yeah, I think they must just be dating because she mentions having like something about her dad not being happy about them being together.
Oh yes,
like, and he's only just found out. So I think
Yes,
they must
that's
just
true.
be dating.
Yeah, just a new thing. And then when Rimmer arrives, he attempts to save him. And I must admit, and I don't know what, and this people who've been listening for a while are gonna be like, "Oh, there it is, Adam." But I say this, I've said this on the occasion, but the whole gag of Rimmer trying to save him, going on about who's the rich man here, it did just go on a bit too long for me, Phil. I'm
Interesting.
sorry.
Okay.
It just, I was here for it, the initial bit and but it was one of the, and as I've said before, for those listening, I might just have a shorter attention span. Maybe I prefer quicker comedy, but yeah, I don't know. It just, by the end of it, when you have the punchline where he's like, "Oh, it's it's you, isn't it?" and all that sort of stuff. It didn't make me laugh really, because I was like, the potential for me laughing is gone now. I don't know. What did you think?
I liked it. It was actually I've actually got it as a contender. Not, I don't think it wins, but as a contender for one of my funniest moments.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I
Okay.
really liked that bit. I thought, again, it mainly due to Chris Barry's delivery of it. I thought I didn't think it went on too long, and I thought his
fair.
timing and pacing of it was perfect, just to hit that point where he goes, "No, oh no, it's you, isn't it?"
Yeah. Yeah. No, he's good. I don't know. Maybe it's probably just me. I think maybe I don't like long comedy.
That's fine.
elongated
Everybody has their
stuff,
different taste, and they
Yeah.
clearly. I mean, I've agreed with you, especially in that first season. I think first series there was quite a lot that did go on too long, and for not very
Yeah.
good punchlines. I think possibly it softens it better when I think the punchline is actually good. I'm willing to be more forgiving of.
Yeah, I think the worst one so far
wanted
to
to
memory.
together.
I can't remember what episode, but the punchline was something to do about the soles of your shoe, because they were on about soles and it was a shoe, and I was like, yeah, that's not a funny joke. This one's not nowhere near as bad as I like the setup, but yeah, just for me it went on a bit too long. But his efforts, by all accounts, have failed to get Lister back, so he decides to change his own past by inventing the tension sheet first, by stealing it from Thicky or whatever his chum's name was. Yeah, so we go to a young Rimmer in where is he at again? Is it school, boarding school?
Some boarding school or ever, I think.
Yeah, and he tries to, and he sleeps with boxing gloves. Is that for self-protection? Does he get?
I
beaten
think
up
so.
in the
I
night?
think he gets beaten up quite a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell. So it sounds awful to say, but
Well, interestingly, at the beginning of the episode, he mentions having, we always used to beat up Thicky so-and-so. But I wonder if he was
Yeah.
projecting that and, like, it was actually what
It
they
was
did to
actually
him.
him.
And that's
Well-
why he has the gloves and everything. Because Thicky, whatever his name is, that was sort of in the bed next to him,
yeah.
wasn't in any sort of, didn't look like they were scared of somebody randomly being there and waking them up. So
Well, he does that a lot. Like, I mean, the episodes where he's like, "Oh yeah, me and the family, or me and the boys used to do this." Oh, turns out it was actually me they did it to. Yeah, so you're right. Maybe it was a projection, but yeah. So he tries to pass the wisdom on to his younger self, but Thicky is right there, and
Yeah.
I must admit, like, go on. Sorry, you go.
well, this is a Bootstrap Paradox thing, isn't it? It turns out that, like, he is the one that always gave Thicky the idea in the first place.
Yeah, it's that wonderful paradoxy stuff. But in terms of, like, the joke aspect, what did you think of it? Because I think as soon as we saw that it was Thicky next to him and Thicky woke up, my mind instantly pieced, for the ending, it was like, oh, okay, so, Thicky's heard it, so he's gonna made it all along, piece by piece. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not a bad thing at all, but as soon as I saw Thicky wake up and listen,
Yeah,
I was
I
like,
got
okay,
that,
the
yeah.
ending's become very clear-cut now.
Most of it, yeah.
Yeah.
There was still some surprises, I think. At least.
Well, yes.
Well,
there's-
one main
yeah.
surprise, because he gets
There
back
is.
and he finds out. No, he's expecting to sort of just disappear as the timeline resets itself. The others reappear. And he doesn't disappear. And it turns out that he just gave Thicky the idea in the first place. So time is back to normal, or so they think.
Tis.
But and how quickly did you notice this? Did it take you till Holly said it straight away?
No, straight away.
Yeah.
I don't know. Myers must have. I think I'm so used to seeing him with the H on his head. The minute it wasn't there, I was like, "Whoa, there's no H there." And I wrote in my notes. I'm looking at it. It says his H is gone. ... And I thought at first, because they didn't address it at first, and I was like, "Are we? Was that just? Did someone just forget?" Like, I thought, is it a continuity error? But then, as you were about to say, I think Holly says, "Oh, your H is gone." Which
yeah, you're
means,
not a hologram
of
anymore.
course,
So he
he's
had
alive.
rewritten, and I read an interesting theory about this when I was looking it up afterwards, after I'd seen it, that he did change history by appearing to himself, and the theory goes that it made him less likely to be scared of seeing his future self or distrustful of seeing his future self. So back in the episode Stasis League, when the events of that happen and he sees his future self, he actually listens and goes into stasis and therefore survives along with Dave.
Right.
That's obviously just a fan theory, but that's one I quite like.
No, that's good. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me with how thin the continuity links in this show can be sewn together.
Now, of course, in this new timeline, he's been alive this whole time.
All
so,
the time.
like,
yeah.
that is it. In a way, it's a great sort of continuity reset for the show, because now they don't have to worry about anything that came before, because they can just wave it away with a bit of plot. It's, oh, that was the old timeline. This is the new one.
This is the new one.
This is what happened in this new one. But we're very exciting. We're obviously now gonna get a real live Rimmer for the rest of the series.
Yeah, that's
obviously what's going to happen.
I thought that too for about 5 seconds.
Then he gets blown up.
And I must admit, I love the way he just goes, "I'm alive," slams 2 boxes, and they just explode in the most overly dramatic fashion in the world. And of course, all the others just do is go like, what was he on about? It's so exaggerated, and it's so. I think that's why I love it so much. It's so exaggerated. The explosion is so loud and massive for no real reason. It doesn't show you what he hit, what was in the boxes.
Yeah, I mean, how random that there was an explosion there. There we go. But of course,
I loved it though.
It's Rimmer's luck,
of course, he's not gonna stay alive. I was like for the first 5 seconds when he realized, I was like, oh my god, live Rimmer, and then I was like, no, Adam, You've watched nearly 3 series of this show by now. Something's going to happen.
Were you just going to assume... Because, this show has done this to us in the past. It could have easily just been that the episode ended with him alive and started the next episode with him a hologram again, and just never explained it. Because sometimes Red Dwarf does that.
And I think that's what made the last moments of this even more funny, because I was thinking, next episode it'll be a hologram again. So the fact that it got resolved about 10 seconds after he became alive was so unexpected. Oh, I just loved it. I love the ending. I know sometimes I complain about how sort of stop-endy the Red Dwarf episodes can be, but I thought this was one where it worked perfectly. Do you know, that sort of, yeah, he's alive, now he's dead. Cool, done, move on. Brilliant. And the last thing I want to say, really, before we get into the usual segments we do, is that just before Holly reveals that his H is gone, I don't know if you noticed that there's a violin-only arrangement of part of the Red Dwarf theme that plays when Rimmer's like, why does it never go well for me? When he's sort of lamenting. Just a very slow, sad violin of the theme tune. I was like, I quite like that. I was like, that's...
Yeah, no, I didn't notice that.
Yeah. It reminded me of the original opening from series 1 and 2, but it's just violin. I liked it. I was like, that's a nice touch. I was like, that's cool. I like
nice. That. So, what was your favourite, funniest moments in the...
I was thinking about it from when I said it, and it might reflect on me, but, I enjoy a bit of the ye old dark humour here and there. And I think I'm going to give it to the JFK line from Crichton, just because, again, of how by surprise it took me, and how Robert Llewellyn plays it off with sort of that happy-go-lucky, innocent. It almost reminded me, I know I've made comparisons to this other character before, but it's almost like if C-3PO told that joke. Like, it was sort of in that vein, just a really innocent android saying something with a big smile on his face that's actually quite dark. So yeah, that was my funniest line, I think, for me. Close second would have to be the ending, which we just talked about, for how random that was. But I'll give it to Crichton this time.
I see. I had a few, and I was trying to decide between them. Like I said, what you thought was too long drawn out. Oh, it's you're the richest man, aren't you? Thing came close, but I'm gonna go with a bit more of a one from earlier where they're talking about Rich before Rimmer goes back to try and change things again.
Yeah.
And he's talking to Holly and getting the information about what Dave's life is like.
And he died tragically in a plane crash, aged 98.
98?
His own fault, apparently. He was making love to his 14th wife and lost control of the plane.
Have you got any photographs?
Well, not of that, no.
But yeah, that bit there just sort of tickled me. That had me laughing out loud. I just like that. And Holly's delivery here was good. Holly now in these last two episodes has started to come into her own as the female version of Holly here as well.
Yeah.
So that's really good as well. It's good to see her sort of playing to her strengths rather than scripts that are obviously written for Norman Lovett. So that's good. I mean, I realised I hadn't said something that I meant to say at the start as well. When they're playing golf, I'm backtracking massively now, but
no, it's okay.
Kat is wearing a top with the Red Dwarf logo on, and that just struck me as odd because it does not seem like a very fashion conscious thing that Kat would do. I mean, the checker, the sort of tartan hat and stuff, fine, that's kind of the quirky stuff, but I can't see him willing to be wearing a Red Dwarf logo. But
no, I thought this, unless it was like, a spacesuit when they're out in space that they have to wear. But yeah, no, I get that as well. It's like, oh, why is he wearing that? Are all his suits in the dry cleaners or something? But yeah, I get what you mean. It's not a very Cat choice.
Do you have a favourite character?
I'm gonna give it to Dave, because as I said, like you really saw, I think, a more morose side of his character this time. Like we said, there's a lot of moments where he's not going for comedy, both the actor and the character. It's not written as comedy. It's I guess, sort of how he plays, how he's not happy with life, how he interacts with his younger self. I just, I think it shows that, that Craig Charles can do that sort of stuff. I mean, he's done it before, but it's often been very fleeting, like a moment or half a scene or something. But yeah, I think, do you know what I mean? It just really shows that he can do, even in a comedy, he can do all the facets of like the positive and negative of a character. And it's nice to see that from Dave as well, because as much as I love him being like a goofball and like messing around and stuff, I do like it when comedic characters in comedies do let you see that other side as well. So for all that included, I'm going to give it to good old Dave Lister this time.
I had exactly the same, Dave. For the exact same reasons. He just had such a good variety in this episode. A good wealth of different stuff to do. Different sides of his character to show off from like you say, the morose stuff, and then how he dealt with his younger self as well was very interesting, because that was still that was playing to the comedy, but it was just different. It was him seeing his own frustration with himself was really good as well. And then you've got a completely different sort of take on his character when he's the rich rock star, millionaire person as well. Many different sides to his character that we saw in this. So yeah, some good work from Craig Charles in this one. What about score? How many scutters out of 10 would you give this episode?
Ooh, well, certainly a lot more than we did last week.
Yes, last week was our lowest rated episode so far.
Yes, it was. I'd give this 8, solid 8. Most of the comedy landed. I know I mentioned the one bit in the mansion that went on a bit too long, but most of the comedy landed for me, particularly the darker bits. I thought all the actors were on top. Well, I've already mentioned about Craig Charles, but all the others were as well for when they were in it. And a really cool concept. And even though I said, it's time travel in 25 minutes or whatever, it gets across its message pretty well. And I think as long as you have like a base understanding of time travel and some of the the rules, like you say, the paradoxes, then I think it's a great little slice of it. So yeah, solid 8 for me. What about yourself?
I had I had written down, and I hadn't decided which one I was going for. 7.5/8. That's what I've put.
Ooh.
And I think I will give it 8. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
There was a good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody. I mean, there wasn't a bad performance in this. Everyone had moments to shine, I think.
Absolutely,
Crichton
yeah,
had his
yeah.
stuff in the dark room, which was very funny. Holly, as I said, had her lines that now she's coming into her own. Even the cat felt like he had a presence in this much more than he has done in previous. Certainly, this series just generally, he's definitely becoming more of a character.
A lot more, yeah.
So there was nobody in this that I felt, oh, you're being wasted. So
yeah,
I think I'll give it an 8 as well.
Solid, man. That's
Excellent.
good. See, folks, we're back to normal. No more low scores at the minute.
We are almost at the end of Series 3 now.
This
has flown by.
It has.
I hope you're enjoying it at home. If you're just randomly tuning into this one episode because you really like Timeslides and you found this review, we've reviewed everything up to this point as well, and we will be reviewing everything afterwards as well. So do, check out that back catalogue.
Go for it, yeah. It's, as you say, mad that we've come this far, but yeah, definitely check out everything before. Join us on the journey, especially if you're like me, first time. Highly recommended that you join us on this journey. And yeah, Series 4 soon, but we've got one more. We've got
more.
The Series 3 finale coming up.
Yes. And whereabouts can people? What are you up to on the internet and elsewhere? What are you doing?
On the
with your life,
interwebs,
Adam?
What am I doing with my life? Well. By the time this comes out, I'll have done this for a while. But at the time we're recording, I've got a new part-time job, which is in the drama acting sphere, which is what I train in. So that's great to be working in that sphere again. But I'm still making content for YouTube. So you can check out my channel, Adam Martyn with a Y. I make stuff on mainly Doctor Who, but also other stuff. Now that's what I call music, classic TV, presentation, idents. There'll be something there for you, I'm sure. Check us out there. Drop us a subscribe if you like. I'm also on Twitter. Again, by the time this is out, it's been that way for a while. But it used to be Adam Martyn Actor. It's now Adam Martyn AMTV, just to line in more with, YouTube. But generally, people have said if you type in Adam Martyn, I tend to pop up somewhere. So yeah, give me a follow on there. But what about you, Phil? Where can the good people find you, and what are you up to?
Well, as I've got my YouTube channel, which, as well as hosting the, I say video version of this podcast, it's not really video. It's the audio with a couple of cartoons of still image cartoons of us and a squiggly line that goes up and down. But if you like that, if you want to see something moving on the screen and see some great art by Sophie representation of us and the Red Dwarf ships, then go and look at that. And I also on there do Doctor Who videos, much like Adam, and a whole host of other pop culture stuff as well. MCU. I'm trying to review all of the MCU Disney Plus TV shows as and when they come out. At the time of recording, we've already had WandaVision and Loki and and that's the next one. And Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Loki is starting soon, so I'll be reviewing all of those. But that'll probably already be happening by the time this comes out. Because we record these 5 or 6 weeks in advance. So
yeah, we're professional. We're prepared. So.
You can also find me on Twitter. I keep on meaning to change this. Maybe I will one day. Maybe I will have done by the time this episode comes out, in which case this is pointless. But my Twitter currently is at IUDEX_Phil with 1 L.
Nice. One L, only one.
1 L. I'm Phil with 1 L. You are Martyn with a Y.
With a Y. Yeah. The perils of having names like these, eh? So.
Excellent. Well, thank you for listening, everybody, and we will see you again, hopefully, next week.
Aye. See you later.
Bye.